Today on the podcast, we are going to continue with our topic of disconnecting to connect. Disconnecting to connect. We've talked about this topic a few times on the podcast. We've talked about resting and finding rest, Sabbath. We've talked about digital, how it presses into our life, how apps and technology can become a distraction, and a distraction that brings us away from being able to hear from God. But this one's a little bit different in the sense that we're trying to walk through what happened with Elijah and how he got in a position to be able to hear from God and to take some practical steps in our own life so that we can put ourselves in a position to be able to hear from God more frequently. And even thinking about our discipleship and our discipleship groups. How do we help those that we are leading? How do we help those we are discipling to put themselves in a position to not be so distracted that they're unable to hear from God, or they just get into a busy rut like most of us do, with voices in our life. And by voices, I mean, a feed on your phone or whatever else you're connected to and plugged into that takes up that silence that often God speaks to us in. And so last time we left off with some practical steps, and we've got several of these, maybe 5 or 6 very specific things we want to do to help, things that we've tried to implement, things that we are learning over the last, it's probably been about a 9-month to a year journey that we've been on as we've been reading some things and thinking through this, and we've seen the impact of this. I've seen the impact of this in my life. I've taken some different steps. One awesome tip that I can give that I've been incorporating recently is normally I have my phone beside my bed. So when I go to sleep, I kind of put it on the charger right there. It's been my alarm. But what I will find is, one, before I go to bed, I'll scroll through it endlessly and go to bed an hour later than I want. If I wake up in the middle of the night, got to check the phone just to see what time it is. Right. That turns into another hour. What was I doing on Instagram for an hour? Yeah. And then in the morning when I wake up, what's the very first thing you do? You pick up the phone and you scroll through it for an hour. You go, whoa, I'm going to be late for work if I don't get out of bed and go. So I've removed that by placing that on the other side of the room. I went to an old school alarm clock. Maybe you've ever heard of these?
Yeah, I just bought one.
All it does is wake you up.
Yeah.
You can't scroll
I even bought one, and they're not very expensive, where it actually projects the time on your screen. On your ceiling. Did you know they have these?
I've never heard of
It's
that.
a projection alarm clock. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up.
So you can just look at the ceiling while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
That's what time it is.
Yeah, you just realize, do I want to get up now? Look at the ceiling. I mean, don't even have to turn over.
Mine is a sun, I don't know what it's called, but it emulates the sunrise.
Really?
So I set it for, let's say I set it for 6:30.
Okay.
At 5:30, it comes on really dim and slowly gets brighter over the hour.
Really?
And then that wakes me up and then at the very end, the sound goes off for those who just,
Well, I got caught up last night. So I have a routine. You should have a bedtime routine. This is probably not part of the topic, but we'll just continue going where we're going. We did not plan on talking about this, but this may be helpful. You have to have a nightly routine. And I've realized that if you are reading your iPad in the bed, searching the internet, watching Netflix, scrolling through your phone with that blue light, that it actually will keep you up. Now, I was so convicted about this a couple years ago. Now, this is true. You're not going to believe this.
Oh, boy.
That I did the research that there's a way to get rid of the blue light effects on your screen. So you can actually read the iPad or watch the iPad without having the blue rays shine in your face.
Okay.
Do you know what I did?
I don't.
I purchased the old familiar favorite, the blue blocker sunglasses. That for a season, no, this is true. For a season there,
Candy were you wearing sunglasses in the bed?
Candy would go to bed, this is true, and look over at her husband and these aren't small glasses. These are the big blockers that block the whole side and have the big side
I think my
rims.
grandma has a pair of those.
Yeah, she may have, along with the life alert.
They help you drive
Does she
at
have
night?
The life alert. That's the question. I've fallen and I can't get up.
I hope they all have the life alert. I need the life alert.
Yeah, I probably need it too with my health issues.
There you go.
But that may be a little overboard. So here's what I found. And this is going to surprise some of you, but you may want to go back to analog reading.
Ooh. Yeah. So like pages in a book.
Like a real
paper.
book, like a physical book with a highlighter and a pen maybe.
How do you see it in the dark?
Well, you do have to have a light.
Okay.
You do have to, or a night light. You can have a little book light.
That's true.
Okay, let's get back to the topic because
that
was helpful, but I don't know how we got off.
That is a helpful tip. If you're looking for a way. Moving the phone away from my bedside has increased my sleep by an hour.
Yeah, so move the phone, get some blue blockers.
There you go.
Okay, Jesus was a master of this. Okay, so how do we disconnect from the things of the world in regular rhythms of life in order to connect with God. Let's take the life of Jesus. Not only was the message of Jesus inspired, but the model for living was inspired as well. So Jesus emulated for us the way we should live and follow him, okay? Jesus regularly went away from the crowds, from the noise, from the busyness, and got alone in silence and solitude with the Father, okay? Think about it. Mark chapter 1, a busy day in the synagogue. He preaches a message. He heals a man who's demon-possessed. He goes back to the house. You know, they're knocking on the door. Hey, Jesus, got a whole crew out here. Do you still have any more healing power? Because we got a whole crew lined up, want to be healed. He casts out demons. He heals the sick. He has a busy late night. He goes to bed. The Bible says, Mark 1:35, early in the morning he wakes up, goes to a desolate place by himself and prays. Jesus knew that the busier his life got, the more intentional he had to be to get alone and pray. Before he chose the 12 disciples, remember this? He goes through the entire night on a mountainside to pray. After he hears the news of John the Baptist's death, a very difficult thing for him as he's dealing with this in his humanity, Jesus departs to be with the Father alone in prayer. When Jesus feeds the 5,000, he sends them out on a boat. He says, boys, y'all go in the water. I'll meet you later. He goes up to the mountain to spend time with the Father in prayer. Right before he dies, Jesus takes the 11 disciples, then the 3, and then by himself and says, boys, y'all stay here. I'm going to go to the Garden of Gethsemane. He falls on his face by himself and prays to the Lord. Here's the point. If Jesus Christ, as the immortal Son of God, got away and spent time in solitude and silence for prayer, how much more, Chris, do we as mere mortals need to do the same?
Probably a lot more.
Yeah. So if
Infinitely more.
Yeah. So if Jesus is telling us what to do, so I think we should model that. So maybe the reason you and I aren't listening and hearing from God is because we have too much noise in our life. So let me give you 2 things that we're doing. Okay. A few things, 2 major things that I'm doing. I'll give you a few subpoints. Number 1 is this. I just purchased something called a Light Phone 2.
Light phone, L-I-G-H-T.
Yeah.
phone.
Now, I know you're going to laugh at this, but the alternative is a flip phone. Do you remember the flip phones?
I do.
Okay. We had those.
I loved it. I had the Razor, Motorola Razor.
yeah.
That was a great phone.
Yeah. But they're actually making a comeback.
They're making a comeback. I think the challenge with the flip phone is you can't text very easily because you have to like hit 1 3 times, 1 2 times. And so texting is out the window. But with the Light phone,
the Light Phone 2 is a Kickstarter campaign we've known about for about 8 months now. I was one of the first ones to sign up for this phone. It came in the mail last week, and the phone does 3 things. Okay, it'll do more eventually, but 3 things. It makes calls, it sends texts, and it has an alarm. And you got to have an alarm, so you got to have an alarm. And so you got to think, okay, what is the purpose of that? That phone, because of my addictive nature, keeps me from being always tethered to text, always connected to voicemails, always connected to emails. And so now the phone is not using me. I'm using the phone when I want.
It becomes a tool again. And I've been asked how to use this because I will be getting one. I don't have mine yet. I'm letting you be the guinea pig to make sure it works properly. Okay. But once I find out it works properly, I'm going to get it. And someone's like, are you going to replace your phone with it? And the goal for me, it really isn't to replace my phone.
Right.
It's to switch to that phone when I need to have some solitude and silence. For instance, when I get home from work.
That's right.
At 5 o'clock each day or whatever time I get home, I will put my iPhone away for the night, and I'll have the other one. So if you need to get hold of me, you can, but I'm not constantly drawn into Facebook, Twitter,
that's what I'm going to do.
Instagram, whatever it is I'm
using.
Or
Sabbathing when we're taking
our Friday,
our Friday of relaxing and getting away.
Or if you go on a date with your wife.
That's exactly right.
And you don't want to be looking at your phone the whole time.
Well, here's the thing. You may think this is dumb. Nobody wants to. The website, by the way, is thelightphone.com. But here's the thing. You may think, nobody wants this. Guess how much money this phone raised in the Kickstarter campaign?
$27.
Close. Oh. $12.3 million.
Wow. I took a stab at it.
You took a stab. You're way off. But,
way off.
And it's creating this idea, and it's perpetuating or helping us with this idea that's perpetuated called nomophobia.
Nomophobia.
You ever heard of that?
I have heard of it from you.
Okay, yeah. Nomophobia is no mobile phone phobia.
Yes.
It is the anxiety people get when they are detached from their phone. I'll prove it to those listening because it's happened to you and it's happened to me. How many times have you left your home and forgotten your phone?
A lot.
And no matter how far you're away from home, you will turn the car around and
true.
drive back.
I've done it.
Even if you're late
Yeah.
for an appointment or a doctor's
Gotta have the
appointment or a
phone.
restaurant, you got to have the phone.
Yes. And then the other one is, when's the last time you went to the restroom without taking your phone?
Let's pause.
I got to find my phone.
Let's talk about that after the break because that is something I want to
We'll get into that in just
drill
a moment,
down on.
right after
so to
this.
speak.
Blueprint 2.0 is a training event coming up in March 2020, right here at Long Hollow Baptist Church. You've created a discipleship pathway, launched discipleship groups, and created a discipleship culture in your church. Now what? With sessions that include overcoming obstacles to sustain a disciple-making movement, the one thing you shouldn't outsource, moving from meeting to multiplying, mobilizing disciples to engage the lost, and several more, we will take you through the next steps after you've implemented a discipleship pathway and discipleship groups in your church. You can find out more about the Discipleship Blueprint 2.0 at discipleshipblueprint.com or replicate.org. And we're back, talking about some different practical, specific ways we can navigate the world of being disconnected to connect, disconnected from tech, etc., distraction really, so we can connect with God.
Yeah, and we were talking about bathroom breaks.
We were talking about a bathroom break. That's right.
Why is it, and we've talked about this before, but why is it that many people cannot use the restroom
Yes.
without their phone in
I
hand?
know. I have to
notice
say
that?
I'm guilty. I need to go to the bathroom. Where's my phone at?
Right. Some people will
I
walk
don't
around
know
the house
why.
endlessly and hold it. Where's the phone? Have y'all seen, honey, where's the phone? You know, I mean, that's where we have gotten to.
It's pretty sad.
Here's a public service announcement. You can go to the bathroom without your cell phone.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, you don't need your phone
That's true.
to go to the bathroom. Okay, here's the second thing. First thing is maybe get a light phone or a flip phone.
And you can also go online. I've done a little research, and I just typed in dumb phone.
Dumb
Just
phone.
to see,
Okay.
and there's like 5 or 6.
Okay.
But the only one I found with the ability to text like normal with, hear all the letters on the keyboard is the light phone too.
Yeah.
That's why that one's exciting.
Yeah, and I just got it in. I'm telling you, it's pretty amazing. It's the
Awesome.
size of a credit card.
I'm excited to see you use it.
Yeah. Well, yes. Okay. The second thing we want to challenge you to do, and this is a couple things under this, is fight the feed.
Fight the feed. What is the feed?
Fight the feed is an idea you came up with where we are constantly being fed information.
Yes.
Information from the world, news apps, sports
That's my number
apps.
one, by the way. We
News?
say Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah.
I honestly don't spend almost any time on those.
Right.
I spend almost all my time on Google News.
Really?
Or Apple News or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I will read through news until I'm done with one feed, and I'm like, I need another news feed.
Right. You're addicted to the feed of news.
I am. It's
Right.
crazy.
Okay. For others, it's Twitter.
Yes.
For me, it could be Instagram. It could be anything. Okay. So here's a couple things we've done in our home. We have set aside a particular time limit for our kids where they only can play, you've done this as well, a certain amount of time and look at a screen.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I say screen because our kids started to play us. They're pretty smart. Okay?
How'd they do that?
Well, let me tell you how they did that. We said we have a hard and fast rule. We started this in August. At 4:30 p.m., no more iPads or video games.
Uh-oh. How'd
Okay?
that go over?
It didn't go good the first couple weeks. It was meltdown city. But, yeah. But we finally got over it, and they realized we weren't playing. And so they get home around 2:45. So they have roughly an hour and 30, an hour and 45 to play iPads, play on the video games, okay? And so at 4:30, we would shut this off. But recently I came home the other day, and found that they moved. I watched them. Candy said, turn the iPads off. They did. They stopped watching the YouTube video on their iPad, went and sat on the couch and watched the same video on the screen. And I said, Candy, the kids are playing us because they just moved from one device to the other. So you have to say no screen time.
Wow.
No television, no internet, no video games.
So
Now,
what happens if your kid says, well, what am I supposed to do during this time?
Well, I'll ask you. You gave me this idea. So could I ask you this? I said, okay, what happens? Because my kids say this,
Yeah.
Daddy, I don't have anything to do. What do I do?
That's right. We love that question in our house. Melissa particularly loves it. But she got this tip from her mother. There's always something to do. You can always be cleaning.
Right.
I believe one punishment they've had at their house is to go out and pick up a pile of rocks, take it to the other side of the yard, and then pick it up from there and take it back to the original side of the yard. So there's always work to be done.
Yeah.
If there's nothing to do in my house, a lot gets done. So our kids really don't say that anymore.
Right.
What am I going to do? Or I'm bored.
You know what's amazing? We've been doing this. It's amazing how they always find something to do immediately.
Oh, immediately. It's like, wait a second. Watch the baseboards? No, I've got to go to my room, and then they're gone.
Yeah, we're going to go shovel cow manure down in the farm. Nope, Dad, I got something to do quickly. Okay, so no screen time, so that we schedule a time. The second thing is, when you do this as parents, they're going to look at you, and they're going to say, Daddy, what about you?
That's right.
So
you have to also shut down the screen time.
Right. Okay, so here's what we do as a family. As a family, we try to have 1 hour with nothing on, no radio, no television, no screens, no phones, where we sit down for dinner. I'm big on this with the dinner.
Yeah.
So we can have, this is a novel idea, we have conversations face to face.
How does that work? What do you do in those?
Well, you talk, actually.
Kind of like what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's just like we're doing now. That's another thing you can do, and I'm telling you, here's what I've learned about discipling my boys. Time today, when they're young, equates to transparency when they're teenagers and older. Don't miss this point. It's the same thing that goes with discipleship groups. It's the same thing that goes with church members. When you spend time with them today, it's going to open up transparency later in life. So they're going to be more open to tell you, Dad, I'm struggling with this. Dad, this is happening. Dad, I saw this. Dad, I looked at. You see what I'm saying? But if you don't spend time with them now, they're going to be transparent, just not with you. Because the reality is our kids are dying for parents. They don't need a friend. Okay, and I know I'm getting on a soapbox here, but I'm just going to keep going for a second. They don't need friends. They have friends. They need a leader. They need a parent who knows what's best for them. When they don't know what's best, they need you to tell them what's best. Now, is that always popular? No. Will they always like you? No. But they will thank you years later when you parent them. They need parents who are going to show them that life is not always good.
And might I also add that if you want to avoid a great deal of regret, I mean, think about what you said the other day. You said you're going to look up one day from your phone, your kids aren't going to be there anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You'll still have your phone, but that's not going to be.
Phone's always going to.
That's going to be with you. Yeah.
Jesus could have said
So
the phone
you have
will
a-
always
yeah.
be with you,
You
but
have
I
a
won't.
very narrow band of time to
Yeah.
influence and spend time with your kids,
Yeah.
and none of us are going to regret spending that time with our kids,
Yeah.
even though we may think like we do regularly at the Swain household.
Yeah.
We eat dinner, we shut down all of our technology, and for the next hour, my daughter's saying, what board game are we going to play? Are we going to play Clue? We're going to play Monopoly. We're going to play Uno. And we're thinking, I'm tired. I just want to sit on the couch.
Right.
But I can't do that.
Right.
I've got to invest and spend this time, and I won't regret that later. I can always sleep or sit on the couch later on. Now I need to invest in kids.
Well, I have a family member who they did not spend time with their kids when they were young. They were wealthy, extravagant. They lived a kind of an extravagant life, and so they were always busy. They were always gone, disconnected from the kids. And so now the kids did not turn out, let's say, as they expected. And I was talking to my parents about this recently, and I said, Mom, you know what it shows me? It shows me that as parents, we're either going to raise our kids when they're young, or we're going to raise them when they're old, but we're going to raise our kids one day. We're either going to raise them when they're young, or we're going to still raise them when they're in their 30s and 40s, but we're going to raise our kids. So here's another thing we can do, just kind of switching gears. Remove all of the social media apps off your phone.
Easy.
Yeah, I know.
You're
I know.
getting a little close to home there.
Well, I know. For 5 months, I think you did this with me. In the beginning of the year, I removed Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and news feeds from my phone. Now, did I still check them from time to time on a computer? Yes. But I did it on a computer where I forced myself to sit down. Now, here's what I found. When I had to sit in front of the computer, I didn't spend mindless hours scrolling through screens as I would through my phone looking for something to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another one. Here's the final one. We'll finish with this. Well, I'll give you one more before that.
Yeah.
We're both wearing right now analog watches.
Just has numbers.
It's funny because these things still tell time. It's amazing.
Yeah. And when I look at it, I don't tap it and read anything
You don't
else.
do anything.
Yeah.
It always has the time up. You don't even have to lift your arm up. It has the time. Here's the thing. We gave up our Apple Watches 6-8 months ago. And the reason I did was I didn't want this incessant amount of taps and hits and buzzes and beeps on my wrist every beckoning moment of the day that I would have to listen and respond to. I just said, I'm not going to be used by my phone or other people, that I'm going to use my phone. So I got rid of the Apple Watch or the Fitbit or whatever.
And we've heard naysayers before say, well, all you have to do is turn off alerts, turn off emails, turn off. And I'll just be honest. The people who say, I don't have any problem with this and I don't need help in it, those are the ones that scare me the most.
Yeah, well, that's true. And that's another podcast.
I don't want to be judgmental.
No, that's another podcast.
I'm just saying.
Okay, here's the final thing. You need to lead by example. Parents, you need to lead by example. Disciple makers, you need to lead by example. Okay, so here's what. One day, for years, I would come home with my cell phone in hand, talking on the phone as I walked through the door, okay? And what the Lord showed me is, as I would walk in the door, my kids were younger back then, they would run to me and say, Daddy, we hadn't seen you all day. And I'd say, ho, Daddy's on the phone. Hold up, let me finish this call, because I was Mr. Busy. I was important at Mama. I had things going on. I had a church to, I got things I'm doing. And so, and this is what I was thinking about my mind. So I'm busy. I got to make phone calls. But what it was showing my kids was something I got revealed in the process. When you walk in the door, the first impression your kids see is the lasting impression for the rest of the day. So when they see Dad coming in, and if you do this enough, they realize Dad doesn't care about us. Dad cares about the outside world. He doesn't care about the home. And remember, and I'm convinced of this, when we stand before the Lord, God's not going to be impressed with how big your church is, how large your ministry is, how extravagant your buildings are, or how big your budget is. He's not going to care about, I don't think, those things. I think what God's going to ask us is, how well did you make disciples of all nations? And he's going to start with, you ready for this? The first church of your home. So I got convicted. The Lord convicted me about coming in the home with the phone in hand talking. He did it through candy.
Surprise, surprise.
You ever had that conviction before where your wife's
You've
clearly
got the Holy
says,
Spirit, and then under that you've got candy.
yeah, she clearly said, don't come in the house anymore with the phone. I said, I got it. Okay, Lord, I got it. No, she didn't say it like that, but.
That's how you heard it.
And that's how I heard it. And I changed from going in the house with the phone. Now, I learned another insight years later that really was the final shot across the bow. Every time I go through the house, my phone was in hand. If you're like this, you can't go to the bathroom without the phone. You can't go to the bedroom without the phone. You go play with the kids with the phone. You go read bedtime stories. The phone's right, always there, never out of reach. And one day my boys were playing action figures. It was a Saturday. We were hanging out together.
What kind of action figures were these? Wrestling?
G.I.
Joe?
Yeah, they're wrestling. No, we do wrestling.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah,
He-Man? That's what I played with.
The Rock,
Okay,
Jeff Jarrett,
just making sure.
the Hulk.
Okay.
They still have some Hulk figures, but they like John Cena. They
understand.
Like okay, so Undertaker. So they got all these wrestling figures out, and we're wrestling and we're playing. And it always ends with us wrestling, but we start with the figures. And so in the middle of playing, they're like 9 and 7. Okay, a couple years ago, my phone buzzes. And if you're like me, when the phone beeps or texts, you got to answer it immediately.
Instantly, yeah. It's only take a second.
Yeah, it only takes a second. And as I found myself often, I would get the phone, answer a text, but then I've got to check the football scores, and then I've got to get on Twitter, and then I've got to see if anybody liked my Instagram post. And eventually I looked, and it was 10 minutes. 10 minutes had elapsed. And then finally I looked up. When I put the phone down from looking at it, I realized that my two boys, Rig and Ryder, had moved on to something else. They were done playing action figures. And I said, hey, boys, y'all don't want to play with Dad anymore? And here's what they said, Chris. I've never forgotten this. They said, no, Dad, we figured you forgot about us like you always do to check your phone.
Wow. That's a wake-up call.
So we moved on to something else. And here's the reality for some of you, and I want to close with this. Some of you are going to put down your phone one day and look up, and it's going to be too late because they're gone. And so don't let technology get in the way of intimacy in relationships, and more importantly, your intimacy with God.
That's another good insight. Hopefully those will be helpful, practical tips people can use to disconnect, to connect with the Lord. As always, and you've heard us say this time after time, if you wouldn't mind, as soon as you're done hearing my voice.
No, really, do this right now for us. This is a big deal for us.
Just go to wherever you listen to your podcast
right
and
now.
click the number of stars you think we deserve. 5, 4, 3, whatever you think.
If you
don't
do it,
even have
send-
to write one. You
Can
don't
we
have to
send
write
them a
one.
gift card for doing it?
I don't think so.
Okay. That was a
But
good
we
try.
can send you a virtual high five.
A virtual high five. There you go.
Right now, just go click the number of stars, give us a review, share with your friends. We appreciate it, and have a great week.